Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson. Thanks for joining me for my weekly guitar blog. It's February 15th, 2015, and this week we're going to be discussing how to create a harp-like guitar sound. Now, this week's question was sent in from Pat. He's out in Raleigh, North Carolina, and he wrote in with this email. I've heard really cool sounding harp-like fills used in some songs. One example is in Ozzy's song, Mama, I'm Comin Home. To me, this is a great sound, and I was wondering if there's a basic method I can apply to help create harp sounds. I could think of a lot of places where these cascading harp sounds from the guitar would work great in my music. Some demonstrations and some theory from you on this would be really cool. From Pat in Raleigh, North Carolina, USA. Well, hey, thanks for writing in, Pat. First of all, for anyone who isn't fully aware of what a harp-like guitar sound is or how it's done, this technique is actually pretty easy to do, and it simply involves the process of combining a series of fretted notes with open string notes. And once these notes are combined, they'll sustain out over each other, creating an effect similar to a piano sustain pedal. Now, the result is a very open sound from the combination of the fretted notes ringing out over the open strings. So in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating a few of these ideas, and I'll discuss a couple of ways that you can start creating your own harp-like guitar sound effects as well. So let's zoom in on the neck and get started. Well, I found that in getting started with teaching this harp effect on the guitar, we can have quick results with the idea if we just experiment with using the upper strings of the guitar. It goes without saying that certain keys are going to work better than others due to the fact that, of course, our open strings are all natural notes. This is going to allow for, the keys, of course, with less accidental tones taking an advantage over the keys that would have more accidentals, because as they gain accidentals, we lose open strings in the process. So in the first examples, I just want to mess around with a couple of phrases on the upper strings. The first phrase is in the key of E minor. It's a bit of a suspended sounding phrase. It contains one accidental. It's going to be an F sharp, of course, for the key of E minor. And here's how this simple linear harp-like phrase sounds. You can tell too how I'm letting everything ring out over top of one another to give that harp effect. So that's the first example there. Now in my next example, I want to shift the tonality into more of a major sound from off of the same root as the first example. And in doing this, we need to become much more limited in our approach due to the abundance of accidental tones found in this new key of E major. This winds up getting our harp effect to function just off of the upper two open strings only. And since we're now more limited, we need to employ more fretted notes into the phrase. So here's how this E major phrase sounds using just the upper two open strings, and then we're going to play our melody ideas on the third and fourth strings under that. Now, if you want to enhance this a little bit, I would suggest maybe adding some reverb on your guitar. You could even perhaps try some digital delay as well. It'd be really cool to, mix up some effects with this. So get started with those kinds of ideas first, and then move on into the next pair of ideas that we're going to cover in the second half of the lesson here. Well, sometimes when we use keys that do have a greater amount of accidental tones in their key signature, we can simplify the open string harp-like phrases so that it ends up operating in a fairly simple framework. And one of these ideas can be in the open position. So we're going to remain on the upper three strings only in the open position and execute a phrase around the sounds of the E major tonality. It's going to target more into chord tones rather than flowing across a greater amount of scale tones from the key signature. But the main thing, again, because we are in E major with that abundance of sharps, there's 4 sharps in the key of E major, we are going to be kind of limited to just the upper 2 guitar strings open. And how this phrase works is we're just going to stay real tight knit here. We're going to start off with a slide, C sharp to D, going through the open strings, come up to the F sharp, hit open B, jump over to an A at the second fret of third string, hit open B again, and then slide forward the G sharp into the A, and then allow those open strings to ring out over top. Here it is slowly. And again, you can use some reverb or some digital delay to really enhance the sound of the ringing harp effect if you'd like. But that's keeping it really simple. Again, it's staying in position. It's just in the open position there. And it's a great way to practice this idea, to just start getting used to it in a very simple way in an in-position format. I have another really good one here for you coming up next. It's the final example, and I wanted to use an in-position run of scale tones combining fretted notes alongside of several open guitar strings. Now, this idea is one of those concepts where we need to revert back to the principle of using keys with less accidental tones again, and remember that our open guitar strings are all natural notes, so it becomes nearly impossible to develop phrases within the parameters of this harp-like effect in any key that contains far too many sharps or flats. Once you get into lots of sharps and flats, you're really limited on the open strings that you can use in your phrase. So here's an example that stays in position. It's in the key of G major. And it's going to operate between the first through fourth strings, open alongside of several fretted notes played all the way to the fifth guitar string, actually. But let me just play through this idea slowly here for you. Here it is again. Time. And if you get everything ringing out really nice like that, that's a huge part of this effect. Just have everything ringing over top of one another. That's the best way to practice as a goal towards getting the best sound of this. You can even have another chord, on another track if you're doing multi-tracking, ringing out in the background of this. But the full sound from this harp-like effect, it really does come from all the strings ringing out, as well as maybe adding to that some cool effects, like maybe have some chorus, a bit of reverb, and maybe some delay. But that's the harp effect. It's a very interesting idea to mess around with. We know guitar parts that use open strings against linear or vertical scale tones end up creating a unique harp-like effect that can really draw in a listener. Now, this sound is something that can be heard in all kinds of music across several different musical styles, but the really fun part to developing this idea is working at composing your own harp-like lines. All you need to do is pay attention to how the line will move along with the scale tones that will work the best as the associated open strings. And the first times you try it, it might take some doing, but with practice you'll be able to create riffs and licks that operate with this unique harp-like effect for both your songs and your guitar solos. Anyway, that's about all time I have for today. As always, thanks for watching. Have yourself a really great week, and I'll catch up with you next time. Bye for now. If you'd like to learn the modes and really get an understanding how they can be used musically to write songs, play a solo, or compose melody lines, then you're in luck. My ebook, Using the Major Scale Modes, is a comprehensive manuscript outlining exactly how modes are used both in harmony and to compose melodic ideas. Over 50 pages of scale patterns, example progressions, and music theory all create one of the most comprehensive methods on the modes available. Using the Major Scale Modes is available for instant download in the View Our Products area at creativeguitarstudio.com.